What was your frick it done helping others moment? Had a friend years ago who was a bit self-centered and prone to stretching the truth, but he was a nice enough guy with a rough backstory and my friend group liked him, so I cut him a lot of slack. I like to host, and I have friends staying over pretty regularly. Back then, I usually had 1 or 2 people spending the night on any given day. Anyhow, over the span of a couple of years this guy starts abusing that, staying over for days or even weeks at a time, eating my food, and drinking my liquor without contributing, that sort of thing, while constantly talking about his grand plans and daydreams, as if they'd already happened. A little sad, but also pretty annoying after a while. Anyhow, I sit him down one day and let him know he's got to head home, and that he's free to come over and hang out, but I'm not comfortable with him staying over for the time being. He leaves, I think it went remarkably well, and head out to work, and it turns out that he broke in while I was away at work and stole a bunch of my sister's things because his birthday was coming up and neither of us even thought to get him a gift. It takes a special person to rationalize how burglarizing someone is really their fault. Anyway, all slack and sympathy went out the window immediately. Called the cops and he's dead to me. When a good friend of mine that I worked under had cancer and wasn't able to pay some bills, I loaned her $200 just to help. I was only 18 at the time and felt bad because she had kids. It was right around the holidays and I just wanted to help however I could and be a good person in life. She promised to pay me back when she could. Turns out she lied about having cancer, was stealing from the company I worked at, scammed my other co-workers, and would come in after calling out of work for her chemo to make fraudulent returns while I was overseeing the store by myself because of her calling out. Got that bee fired and got promoted to her position after. Had a newish neighbor ask if he could borrow our lawnmower. Sure. Well, more or less every week he would come and get it out of our garage, use it to cut his grass, put it away without cleaning it or adding gas. In the fall we mentioned it was a good time to get deals on a new mower. He never talked to us again. I'm a teacher. A parent of a former student contacted me in an emergency situation, couldn't afford to pay bills, and needed help. She was super helpful to me in my first year teaching, so I asked friends and family to help out and raised her about $2,000. Never again. She has contacted me every few weeks since then, always with a new reason why she needs more money, and when I offer food and clothing resources, she refuses it. It has placed me in such an awkward situation, and I regret ever trying to help her out in the first place. My mother and her new husband had moved into a new place and invited all the kids over for Christmas. In previous years we would buy a whole turkey dinner from somewhere so no one, me, had to cook. So imagine my surprise when my husband and I walk in. My mother walks out of the kitchen, hands me a spoon and says, "But you're finally here," and goes to sit down in the living room. After a quick and awkward conversation, it was determined that my job was to make sure everything currently in progress, or not even started, got to the table on time, while everyone else socialized. Basically, I was the help, and should have realized that, so any feelings I had about that were my fault. I was a good cook, and my mother taught me everything, so I owed her. So I did, and not knowing the family dynamics, my new step siblings were very thankful and appreciative of all my efforts, which caused a meltdown from my mother about how we all should be thanking her. That was the first time I used a phrase that has come in handy for these situations. I'm so sorry, it will never happen again. And it never did. They weren't happy when they finally realized what that meant. When I had a truck during college, everyone suddenly wanted me to help move them. Most were cool and gave me money or ordered pizza, unprompted BTW. One time however some dude I barely knew needed some help. I show up and nothing is packed in his apartment. He had a giant fish tank and lived on the 3rd floor with no elevator. It was a freaking nightmare and I never got a dime nor food or even some beers. I never talked to him after that. I used to frequently stay late at work for clients who showed up to the veterinary clinic last minute with a non-emergency problem and no appointment. Then 3 times in a row, 3 different people were told up front about the after hours fee, agreed to pay it instead of scheduling an appointment for the next day, and all of them called back the next day fussing that they shouldn't have been charged extra for keeping us 30 to 60 minutes past our scheduled hours, and that we were terrible and trying to scam them by charging for our time. Even though we told them up front and they had another option. It was exhausting and demoralizing. We did more than we had to for them after already working a full day, because a desire to help is why we are all here in the first place, and they responded by saying our time was worth nothing and we suck. The entire staff said frick that. Now, unless it's a literal life and death situation, if we can't fit someone in before closing and they didn't have an appointment, it's a firm no. I'm in this profession to help others, and I still work late for real emergencies when they happen, or if an appointment runs longer than expected, but I'm done sacrificing my personal time for entitled people who don't actually need it. Edited to clarify, the people did pay, but they were calling later to complain about it and demand a refund, or say they were cancelling the transaction on their card. Instead of dealing with the headache anymore, we stopped giving non-emergency walk-ins the option of being seen after hours. No animals were harmed and the staff and their families are all much happier. After working free of charge as a freelance graphics guy to build my portfolio up and having a client basically make the most minor of adjustments and constant revisions, 4 posters which should have taken me a day tops really ended up taking 3 months. And when they wanted poster X4, I wanted money. Ghosted. Lesson learned. We were asleep one night with window open. We wake up, we see there is a couple walking down the road arguing. The girl is closer than the guy. Next thing we know, the girl is banging on door begging to come in. We call police. They get there and couple gone. They tell us that's a common ruse being used in area to get you to open door so they can rob you. We have helped out my sister-in-law a few times with money/bills. Never a lot. $50 here, $100 there, usually for some bill, to avoid services being cut off. I'm usually the more heartfelt one in my marriage, but I ended up being the one to put my foot down. Went over to her apartment once. She had 2 big flat screen TVs, new couch, new fridge, kids on PlayStation, or whatever console she got them. It was all rent-a-center stuff, but that was the end for me. I didn't have any of those things myself, not to mention the incredibly bad financial decision those things were with the high interest rate. Part of me felt like I was taking food out of her kids' mouths, but realized that no, her poor decisions was doing that. I have neighbors across the road who we extended ourselves to help out because they had young kids and seemed to be struggling. Well, they were really starting to take advantage to the point where we couldn't walk out of our house without them literally yelling for us because they needed a phone, a ladder, money, someone to drive them somewhere, diapers, our Wi-Fi password, our wood, etc. etc. This started happening every day and multiple times a day. It became ridiculous and oppressive. They have since pulled that crap with everyone else on our road, wearing out one generous person after the other. Once you realize people are merely moochers and are content to remain so, that's when you're done. The day I realized that no one wanted to help me in return. Look, it's not about doing something for someone to get something back, and I will always help whoever I can that needs it. But when the same people consistently ask for help, or money or what have you, without actually wanting to help you when you need it, or just hang out, or be friendly in general, it's a huge red flag. One day I found a puppy, dirty, hungry, and just scared and lost. I gave him a good meal and some love and went to drop him off at the address on his collar. The dude thanked me, then proceeded to beat the crap out of the dog, telling me to mind my own business. When I tried to get him to stop, carried him by his collar to a 5 feet short chain in a muddy patch with a crappy broken 3-wall doghouse where I'm guessing the dog spent 100% of its time. I called the cops, but they did nothing. The dog technically had shelter, which qualifies BC 3 walls and a roof, even if it was filled with holes, and it gets 20 degrees at night here. P.S. I stole the dog 3 weeks later. Somebody put one of those free items sites on Facebook that she needed an outdoor playscape thing for her kids who were going crazy during quarantine. My kids are now older, but we had this cool plastic little Tykes fort that was in great shape. Those things are beasts. It had a slide and a little play area. Perfect for the age her kids were. I drive a pickup, so even offered to deliver it. She went full /chewing burgers on me and said she was looking for a more elaborate one with more things to do, like the giant wooden ones. Good luck, lady. I'm done with you all. Me and my GF were leaving a McDonald's and pulling up to the stoplight. There's this homeless old man that we've seen around the area ever since we moved here, and my GF decides, since we've never given anything to this guy and he's always there, we should give him one of our McDoubles. He comes up to the car, says thank you, and walks back to his corner as the light turns green and just tosses it on the road right in front of where we are driving. That's it for now. Thank you for watching the video. Leave your comments below. See you soon.